You are live, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the airport board. Is there any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll, I guess, approve the minutes if everybody had a chance to go through those. If there are no corrections? Okay, minutes stand approved. Do we have a financial report and
We do.
claims?
We do. In your account, your cash account, there is $38,258.76. $38,258.76. In your CIP account, $482,305.09. It's $482,305.09, and I have claims when you're ready.
And I saw that the county had approved the grant offer
Yes, we did that today. The grant
and
offer
the contractor.
and the contract
Okay,
for Bullock.
lovely.
Yep.
Okay, let's do claims.
Okay, these have already been turned in, but I will give them to you. One is from Townsend Hardware for like the spray paint and some brass hose shutoffs, probably sprinkler things for $50.96. True Value, again, some sprinkler supplies for $83.96. From the MSU extension, 6 Lee's gopher traps for $90. So water pressure tank, that was from Broward County Airport credit card for $485. That was from Lowe's Hardware. Another True Value one for $126 for sprinkler things and luggage locks and padlocks. And I thought there was, is there another one? I thought there was another.
There should be one for the.
Yes, there should be.
Gopher,
Well, I got the
Yep,
gopher
yeah,
traps.
she's got that
or
one.
the Gopher gas.
Yes, the gas.
Idaho.
Yeah, from Idaho. There was one for $416 also.
There's the gopher traps.
Yeah, there was one for the gas cartridges from Pocatello. Where was that, Dwight?
The USDA office.
Okay, and I turned that in, and I apologize. I know I turned it in, and it was $416, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, $416. That was also on the Broward County credit card. Okay. And that is all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that water tank is not installed?
It's not.
Yeah.
So I'll talk
Okay,
about that.
yeah, good enough. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the claims?
I'll move to approve the claims.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, could you remind me, please, who made the motion? Sorry.
Bob did.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we're waiting on Lance for the Robert Pescia and Associates portion of this, so we're going to move ahead. Do we have an update on the lease situation with the county attorneys, Daryl? So the next item is discuss and decide new leases for current hangar owners. This was held over from last month.
And the question was to sign all new leases or do an addendum, right? Was that what?
Yeah, there was a question on, yes, addendum versus everyone signing a new lease.
We do not have an answer on that yet.
Great.
So,
Was there another issue with that? I can't remember.
Well, we had, it was essentially the original lease was with the county and the city. The new lease is just with the county. So we had that as an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one we had was the tenant lease. And Darryl, you provided language that was fine.
Yep.
On that, and that, I would assume the county attorney's
yeah,
writing that up that way, and we'll see that.
It's already been approved.
I
Okay.
sent it.
Put
I
the
sent it
language-
to you.
great.
I think I
Language you
sent it.
guys recommended,
Yes.
Yeah.
yep, so it's available.
It's a done deal.
for-
Perfect.
For
I think I
anybody
sent
to
it.
use.
Okay, great. Excellent,
So I
yeah.
think Seth's dad had
Yeah, that
someone
was-
interested. So he probably one of the first people to use it,
Sure,
just guessing.
yeah, okay.
Great.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item then. We have review, discuss, decide, hangar lease requests and priority list, and we have Cody Folkvord on the next one. Go ahead.
I can speak to that, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
please.
if I could. Okay, so Jeremy Matz, we talked about, was not ready to build. So I moved on to the next person on the list, which was Matt Lindberg. He is only interested in an 8U9, not 8U8. So I moved on to Scott Stezel, who is from California, who I could not get a hold of and have not heard from, nor do I have contact information from. So I went to Leah Davis. I gave her like 3 weeks. She's can I just please have some time? I said, absolutely, let me know. And she says, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get ready with the snow flying and until next spring. I said, okay, no worries. We'll just move on down the list. You still have the hangar, you're on the priority list. So I went to Cody Folkvord. The situation with Cody in that particular lot that is available is he is asking if he could build not a hangar, but a aircraft tie down, to tie down his aircraft.
So
And
no,
I was supposed to present that to the board tonight.
no structure?
No structure.
Okay.
So could you explain when you pull a plane out, you have a place to park the planes? It's called an airplane tie down, correct?
Correct.
Just parking lot for a plane.
Sure.
Evidently doesn't want it parked in the tie-down area, I guess. Maybe Gerald knows something about that.
I can't be a part of this discussion.
Did I present?
Conflict of interest, I can't be a part of the discussion.
Oh,
No,
Okay.
you can't.
oh, okay.
So the question you raised, Bob, is why not park an airplane in the parking tie-down area?
That was my question.
Mhm.
Unless he doesn't want it there because it's, subject to hanger rash or whatever, you know.
Sure.
Somebody might clip a wing and that's his business tool. The hanger would still be the same. I mean, if he leaves the land, maybe build a hangar later, I don't know. We probably ought to pursue it a little bit and find out what his intentions totally will be.
Mr. Chairman, he wanted to be here tonight and he got hung up with work.
Okay,
Planned on being here tonight, but he couldn't.
but probably will not be, okay. So the question before us is, do we want to save that spot for an actual hangar that will be built? Or allow it to be essentially parking?
Well, I mean, the way we've been handling it all the way up till now is that these are hangar spots. And so, you know, if he doesn't want to build a hangar, then he's passing on the hangar spot, the way I see it.
I think with the upcoming lots that are gonna be coming available, we need to proceed, or we need to be very cautious or revisit the lease and what it specifically says, because, you know, this could start a trend, I guess, on those new spots.
Yeah, Jess makes a good point. Is this a precedent then? So the next person that comes along and says, hey, I don't want to build, I want a tie-down area or a parking spot, then there becomes a fairness issue if we choose not to tie up more hangar spots with an empty lot, essentially.
However, I do know that the lot that we are specifically talking about, is definitely an odd shape and is only going to allow for a very small hangar. And so, you know, I guess that can be a consideration as well, but, you know, again, I think we need to just be careful with what we agree with. We've got several lots coming up, and if people want to come in and just do tie down, that kind of defeats the purpose, I guess.
Oh, we could bring this up to Lance too. If we're looking for the FAA to run taxiways in there for hangars, are we gonna run into an obstruction there with the FAA?
Yeah, and so we discussed, regarding your size issue on the hangar size availability issue, Jess, we discussed this when we approved the neighboring hangar, the Wolfgram hangar. And I believe we can put a 45 wide by 40 foot deep hangar in there and still meet fire code. Does that sound right to you guys?
That's what I'm just making sure of here, because I'm just looking at the size of the, trying to find the.
Can you tell me which one of the spots we're looking at here?
Yep.
Is this one right here?
Mr.
Right
Chairman,
next to the corner of Ferguson.
Yes.
I called Seth to verify that, because that's what Leah wanted to know, the dimensions, and also about the firewall, and I
Right.
pointed her in the direction of Peter, because they had gotten some paint. He had just gone through this with the state inspector.
Regarding the firewall.
Regarding, yeah,
Here it
with,
is.
and how much distance, and also paint that they used, so.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, cool.
40 by 45. So,
40 deep by 45 wide is the available spot if they do a firewall. Do we have that right?
Mhm. So, I mean, that's large enough for Cessna.
Yeah, you could fit 2 Cessnas in there.
Yeah. So, it's a good size hangar spot.
We certainly have smaller hangars on the airport.
Yeah, I guess what it comes down to, it'd be great if, Cody could talk with us about what he's looking for, because I know we're trying to support, an ag operation, and so,
He wanted to be here, he just couldn't, so.
sorry?
He wanted to be here, he just couldn't, so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
you guys,
Because I mean,
Talk about it at
maybe,
a different time,
we
so.
can accommodate in the new hangar space, what he's looking for once we know what he needs, and so, because if he wants to put up a building, that would house both aircraft and support equipment, I would think that would make a lot of sense in terms of the new space we have available, because I think we certainly want to support, business on the airport, and, so that's what I'd like to see. So, maybe we can table this, discussion with regard to his needs until the next one, and basically ask him if he was willing to pass on this space, because he's not building a hangar. So, I mean, that's what I would recommend.
Aubrey, do we have somebody else that is waiting and wants to build a hangar?
Well, the next one, yeah, I have like 4 people left to call after Cody, and again, I think we're gonna be running into the same situation with availability of funds. If they're spending money, great, but then we have to get a contractor, then we have to make sure we get it built before the snow flies and
Yep.
whatever. So, but I'm happy to just continue down the list, let Cody know what you're decided, and go down the list. Or do you want me to, somebody else wanna call Cody, or how do you want me to proceed with that?
Well, let's do this. We do have Lance as a resource. Lance, could we get your opinion so that, I don't know if you got the full discussion. This is Lance Bowser with Robert Pesha. So the situation is there is a hangar slot that someone would like, and they're proposing a tie-down / parking area instead of building a hangar. Some of the concern is that a precedence for future spots? And then we run into a fairness issue. What are your thoughts?
You would have a hard time denying somebody else in the future if you allowed this. You would have a very difficult time denying somebody else the same request. If somebody else came forward and said, well, I want that 50 by 50 spot, but I'm just going to lease the ground and I'm not going to build on it, you'd have a very difficult time denying them. If you deny people on apples to apples basis, you can. So if somebody says, well, we want to build a helicopter hangar here, that's all it's going to, it's just going to have a 20-foot wide door. And every time we go in, we're going to take the rotors off. And we're going to tuck you could deny them, but because then your next approval would be for a larger hangar. But if somebody came forward with a similar request in the future, you probably couldn't deny them. I've run into similar issues on other airports where we had oddball requests and they denied them. They actually turned them into the FAA, and the FAA said, no, that's fine, you can deny them, but you better not approve somebody else for that same request in a year. We're going to have issues. So
it's the same is true on both sides, whether we deny or approve. That is the precedent that we need to equally apply to everyone.
yes. And if it's 20 years down the line and things have changed at the airport, that'd be a different story, you know, if demand or something else, but you'd really have to make that case. Otherwise, yeah, in the near term, you need to stick with the precedent that you set. It just ensures, you know, no discrimination.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm personally very nervous about setting a precedent that, you know, here we are spending a considerable sum of money to get another taxi lane and 4 more hangars, and then open ourselves up to that possibility.
Yeah. So I guess,
So we have 2 options available to us. We could vote to approve or deny, A, or B, table it till we can have further discussion with Cody. Only problem with that is then we're pushing it off another month for the next 5 people on the waiting list.
I think, you want to, this is a formal motion? Or do we want to just
We could-
discuss
we could.
it? I think we need to get a hold of Cody and say we cannot do that. If you want the hangar space to build a hangar, we'll work with you on that, but we cannot put the hangar space in there as a tie down and no hangar, because that's gonna open this can of worms for down the road here.
I agree.
If he wants, you know, if he decides he wants to tie up that piece of land and rent it, that's fine to put a hangar on. You know, we can work with him as far as, we won't start that hangar construction thing till next spring or something like this, because it is getting pretty late in the year for trying to get a hangar put up.
Well, I think you need to be careful with that, because I think that was Leah's hesitation, and she technically is on the list before him. And so if you're gonna allow him to wait, then you need to go back to Leah
That's
and let
true.
her.
That is true.
So, you know, you just have to be careful.
Yeah.
Jess, what are your thoughts on tabling it for a month versus,
I'm okay waiting. I mean, I think that, you know, it would be respectful to hear from Cody and see, you know, his thought process behind it. I'm definitely hesitant. I mean, here we are trying to convince the FAA that we need a ramp because we have the traffic, but now we're going to be parking aircraft not on the ramp. So I guess that's where I feel like I'm not really in favor of it, but I'm willing to listen to what Cody has to say. If he can, you know, write up something, if he can't make the next meeting, or if he can, you know, get there, then, you know, I'm willing to listen to what he's got.
okay, good points. Aubrey, given the track record we've had with people passing, being in the waiting list, do you have a feel, maybe this isn't anything concrete, but do you have a feel, are we going to run into the same thing on the next 5?
That's what I'm wondering, because Leah literally said, I think I can do it if I can wait till, you know, next spring, which there's going to be new hangars being built anyway. So I mean, you guys know how construction is. I don't know if they can get it. And once they sign the lease, it's 180 days, correct? Once they lock in and say, yes, I'm going to do this, sign the lease, it's 180 days to start a construction, right? To start.
That's right.
Okay. So, but I feel like I did it with the first 4. I don't feel like I need to continue down the list. I don't know, to be consistent.
Sure.
But
Yep.
I'll do whatever the board wants me to do.
Do we honestly think that something will change having talked to Cody, on approving a no-build situation. I mean, let's say we table it for a month and Cody's sitting here and says, yeah, this is what I want to do and this is why. I mean, what is going to change?
Well, I think what Lance had to say is the important bit of information to include here, because once we set a precedent of
Yeah.
tie downs instead of hangers in these spaces, then we have to deal with the next guy that asks for a similar type of arrangement. So I think it just is a precedent we don't want to set.
I agree.
I guess what I'm considering is, do we table it for a month? Or make a decision now? I do think we should, if we make a decision tonight, we'll go ahead and do a motion and get it on record so we have a precedent set. I don't know. What do you guys think on waiting a month?
Well, I don't think it's a problem to wait a month and hear what Cody's request is, but I don't want to set a precedent of having hangar spaces become tie-down spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And Jess voiced that it would be respectful to go ahead and hear him out. So that's a couple people that have voiced that concern. Okay, well, if you guys are comfortable with it, then I think that's what we should do, is table it. We've had a discussion. We'll hear him out. And then at the next board meeting, we'll go ahead and make a decision on whether we're going to allow it or not.
Probably should have Aubrey get a hold of him, and see if he can set aside time to come down to the
Sure.
board meeting. Either that or give us a written letter that tells us what his desires are.
Call him. Yeah, I can call him. Yep.
That's the plan. All right.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, Lance, I think we'll pass it to you.
I'm gonna pass these out. Copy for minutes and put the-
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Lance.
You guys also have these in your pockets.
All right. Apologies for running late. I actually don't have any excuses. I didn't even go home. I was sitting in my office and I looked at my clock and I was like, holy crap.
no bother.
Happens.
Didn't even go home. I was sitting there by myself. So, AIP 14, 2021. And do you want me to go through specific by the agenda, or can I just kind of, everything's, some of it's kind of linked together, the discussion points. Is that okay?
Your discretion, yeah, whatever you think is
Okay.
best.
So AIP 14 2021 is still hanging out there. That was the preliminary design grant. That closeout got submitted back in November. So it's been hanging there for a long time. They said it's up for manager approval. So it should be pending closeout. You guys have paid everything out on that grant. You're owed $18,848 in reimbursement. So the grant's done. Everything's been paid. We've been paid in full. You're owed that much in reimbursement. So I'll continue. I mean, obviously we'll continue to assist, but there's just like some final financial forms to file when we submit that last pay request, and that's all that's left. The major rehabilitation project is moving forward well. The grant did get announced. So it's been out there and announced. It's actually short like $100,000 in change. And I was like, what the heck? How did it? And I'm going through spreadsheets and I couldn't total out why that dollar amount didn't add up to anything. They don't know what happened. And they were like, oh, we don't know. Maybe we just didn't get the amount of money that we requested, the local FAA. So it's not that big of a deal one way or another. Grants can be amended. So up to 15%, which in the amount of this grant is quite a bit of money.
Right.
So if it's truly just short that, we'd just move forward. I actually have other grants right now that are short oddball dollar amounts too, just because contractor changes, bidding changes, etc. So, so that's hanging out there. Currently, the FAA does not agree in the apron expansion. However, we've been sending photos. Thanks for everybody that's been trying to gather photos and send them to me. Dwight's been great about it. Jess has sent me some. Daryl sent me some. We've been sending them on to the FAA. I'm saying, you know, this isn't a future need. These guys are parked right next to the pilot's lounge, parked in the taxiways. They're running turboprops. You know, I mean, it's just not safe. They don't have a safe place to park. And so they are going to meet, the FAA is going to meet us on site again August 26th at 10:30, which is Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it is Tuesday.
Monday?
A Monday?
Monday.
August 26th, you said?
Mhm.
And there's a budget meeting that day. Is that a conflict?
No, we're meeting them at 10:30. Right, Lance?
Yep, 10:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm. And our budget meeting is at 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So,
You can be like me, from one meeting to the next.
What?
so I'm hoping that'll change. A future topic is you have some expiring money and start thinking about whether or not in 2025, which will start October 1st, federal fiscal year, what projects you might want to run to make sure that money doesn't expire. I'll touch on that later, but if this apron expansion moved forward, we would use that money towards this apron expansion, and then that's not so much of a discussion. So keep that in mind. Like I said, some of the things somewhat tie together just because of the amount of funding and juggling the balls, and they all kind of come down together. So FAA grant offers expected at any time. I've seen all the FAA other grant offers come out that got announced. I think they're hung up on the city-county thing.
Yeah, which that's just
Oh,
blows me
boy.
away.
We sent that paperwork in almost 6 months ago, and I don't think they did anything with it.
Huh.
I started searching responses, and I sent it to them twice because I didn't get a response, and they basically just said, yeah, we're working on it. I just assumed it was taken care of on their end, and I don't think they did anything with it. So now they're like, well, now we have to offer the county or the grant out to the city and the county. There could be some sort of interlocal agreement probably, but it would be paperwork to try and handle between the city and the county. Because if the city signs that, they'd be signing up for a 20-year grant assurance. So there'd have to be, it would delay things to have some sort of interlocal agreement that would clarify that. And I don't even pretend to know how that would work. So hopefully they can get that rectified.
Okay.
We'll talk about that on Monday
Yep.
with these guys.
Yep. Yeah, for certain. So, hangar layouts, terminal area plan, designated egg area, helicopter areas. So if you flip to that sheet, this is not, and Jess, I apologize, I should have emailed this to you. This is along the lines of what we discussed, the changes. I didn't think about anybody meeting remotely. I could have sent it out while I was running late.
I'll take a picture and send it to
Can
her.
somebody
Lance?
maybe take a screenshot and text it to me?
Which paper are
I'm
you
doing that
talking
right
about?
now, Jeff.
It's on its way, Jess.
It's a different one.
Oh, it's a
It's-
different one than the ones you got. Sorry.
It was her option number 3
Okay,
Yeah.
that she had listed, and we were still working on it today.
okay.
So I got it. We got it done at like 2 o'clock. I just forgot to send it out. I didn't think about it. I was like, well, nobody will review it by then. So this is kind of the layout and that we were looking at. I guess first, that blue apron area is the apron expansion that's in question. If so, the taxi lane would be the gray area that's going to be constructed, and it's in the grant offer. So it is going to move forward. That new taxi lane will move forward. The apron expansion's in blue. If that apron expansion moves forward, I would like to take the tie downs out of it. And the reason why I'd like to take the tie downs out of it, we would just denote it as there's some paint. It's it's like, you know, your standard hold position markings where there's 2 solid bars and then 2 dashed bars. Like non-movement area markings are essentially half that. They're 1 solid bar and 1 dashed bar. That's a non-movement area. So that essentially means that's not a taxiway. Keep your wings inside of that. We would put that at like the object-free area of the taxi lanes that surround it. So then anybody that was parked in that area would know this isn't a taxiway, this is a non-movement area, it's a parking area. So we would denote it. If you guys are interested, we have them labeled on like Hamilton's new airport, because they get a lot of variety of size of aircraft there. They get a lot of jet traffic, and we wanted to make sure that the jets were keeping their wings outside of the taxiways, not just parking on top of tie downs and thinking they could hang wherever they wanted. So I would like to take the tie downs out of there, block that out, and that would be a good area for larger aircraft that don't tie down. It would keep small aircraft from being tied down and parked in that area. Larger aircraft, egg ops, helicopters, kind of still multi-use. And then the grass area to the south of that Blue Apron expansion, you know, they could park trailers in there, whatever, you know, egg operators could when they're using it, and keep that stuff off of the pavement and have a good area for that. So is the board, and I would expect that we can just kind of discuss this, and then you guys can, if you guys want to take action, you can take one final action on any changes that we make.
Yeah, that
Does that
sounds
seem
good.
reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So is the board in agreement with tie down removal and kind of designated open area that could, with non-movement area markings?
I love that
I
idea.
think so.
Perfect.
Yep,
Did you get it, Jess?
yes, that sounds good.
He's asking, did you get the picture of the sheet we're
Oh.
talking about?
Oh, no, I
I
haven't
sent,
gotten it yet.
oh, let's see, I think I sent it to your.
Well, the cement buildings on the round, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Grand Canyon in New York.
So, you guys see the hangar areas that you were discussing, the 45 wide by 40 foot deep. That's about the max that will fit in there with firewalls and everything. That's just spatially. You might be able to get a little bit more width on that one, but everything's pretty tight. So, again, these are just boxes. If somebody comes forward and you guys really feel that something, a different size is adequate and that you want to lease it, you guys can do so. It doesn't have to, this isn't mandatory that you have to build the exact size. So, and then out in front of where the old designated FBO location that was kind of reserved, we show that's a 50 by 50. The reason, maybe something a little bigger would fit in there potentially, but there's some drainage that runs through there.
Right.
So it's kind of, they'd have to do some drainage improvements, probably like stormwater, changing the culverts to like a manhole inlet, you know, filling in ditch lines, things like that, and they might be able to fit like a 60 by 60 in there. It's pretty tight. But that's the reason why it shows a 50 by 50 is just because in recognition of that. It shows spatially. If on mine, you can kind of see it, but they don't print very well. You can actually see the contour lines. There's a little pond right sitting outside that culvert there. So that's the reason why it's 50 by 50. Future FBO is a 120 by 100. The reason why that is a 120 by 100, that's a fairly common size for large hangars because 12,000 square foot is the fire code limit where you have to sprinkler or foam your hangars. So there are quite a few airports that have larger hangars than that. Bozeman, Ennis even has some, but Livingston, but that's a common size for a large hangar because it's a reasonably economical size, and given that the airport's likely going to be maintained as being more of a local GA, in my opinion, I think that's a pretty reasonable size for FBO. Let me ask you one question. Do you guys have minimum standards that would set, like if somebody came forward and said, I want to build that and I'm going to be an FBO, do you guys have minimum standards of what they would need to meet in order for you to lease them that spot?
We've talked about that, but I don't think we've addressed that.
I don't think we have anything written.
We haven't locked it down.
So as we move forward with finalizing this, I think you would need to adopt something to that nature. That doesn't mean that they can't be serve some sort of FBO, flight training, instruction, egg spraying, but you'd have to think about what would need to be served, what would be the minimum requirements that you would expect out of an FBO to fill that hangar spot. So is it 5 days a week, 8 to 5? Is it 6 days a week? Is it, providing minor aircraft repairs, major repairs, power plant, de-icing? I'm just bringing up all sorts of different options that you could require FBOs to have. I'm not thinking that you actually would do all that, but just as an example. So they should be minimum standards, not maximum. But then you would hold anybody that wants that would have to serve that need.
Yep.
If they quit, they'd have to vacate their lease or sell it, because you want that spot, not just, held
as
up
an
by
as an
private.
FBO.
You want it as an FBO.
Yep.
Yep.
Does the board like that FBO spot and the reason
Yeah.
for the 120 by 100? Or are you thinking that that's too large and, at an 80 by 80 would be reasonable?
No, I think that's,
I personally think that it would probably be wise to plan for the 120 by 100.
Yep.
Because you can always go smaller, but you can't go bigger once you've given up that space.
yeah, I'm in agreement.
Okay. And it may leave, if you decided, well, somebody came in and said, we want an 80 by 80, you're going to allow us to lease that spot, we'll be an FBO. It may leave an oddball space behind it, but you guys would just have to make that, or even future board would have to make that determination. But I tend to agree. Lock it in, and that's a reasonable size or a good size for specific reasons. I will send you minimum standards examples.
Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
I think you had one you already provided, didn't you? I think I saw
Possibly.
that somewhere in the paperwork.
I had typed it up after my discussion with Lance, that was like the outline that I had typed up, so it's on there, but
Yeah.
Okay.
not specific stuff from other leases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can look at that and get you some examples. But those would need to be adopted because otherwise
Yeah.
somebody will come forward. That's the spot that people are going to want, right? I want that for a 50 by 50.
Yep.
Well, no. And then you have reasons for why you're denying it. Or I want that for my own private use and I'm going to build a 120 by 100. Well, you may not want to grant that. So then we have several 50 by 50s. And that'd be on the north side of the new taxi lane. And then on the south side, we kind of just filled the space. They're kind of oddball hangars. They're all 60 foot wide. They vary in depth just because we were trying to judge how deep you could build a hangar with the grading that would need to be done along that fence line. We will do the grading as part of the project. So it will look like they're hangar pads. Obviously, they still need to excavate for the footings and everything, but they will be nice and graded out for drainage and everything else as far as, kind of have an established finished floor. Again, they're just boxes. You guys can decide. I would recommend building them in order and try to consider whether or not, okay, well, this person, if somebody comes forward and says, well, I have a kit plane and I want to build a 35 by 35. You will use that space, and it's very difficult to then demolish that hangar in the future and use it if that person's not using it. So I'm not saying every hangar should be 50 by 50, but you should continue to consider if they're going to be coming forward with small hangars, is this going to be usable in 40 years by somebody else, because this airport will reach full build out even if we're able to buy more land at some point in time, even if we quadruple the amount of hangar space available. 40 years from now, it'll still be full.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. And so we want to have good planning
And there is-
from the get-go.
There is 6 or 8 hangars on the airport right now that are small. So, and, you know, those do occasionally change hands, so.
Yeah. And as long as they still serve a use and are using up space, it's always a consideration. I think I gave the example, but Ennis had a 50-foot deep by 100-foot long lot, but that's all the space that was available. So we couldn't really, with separations in the middle, they put 20-foot separations. We couldn't put a 40-foot, 20-foot space and a 40-foot. It just wouldn't really work for that width. It'd really limit the aircraft that could fit in those reasonably. And so they said, no, they can either lease the 100 by 50 and fill it, or, you know, we'll move on to the next. The guy said, I'll take it. It's the last space. I'll build 100 by 50. And it got filled. And now it'll get filled with aircraft. So they're trying to use up their space, and they're basically out of taxi lanes as you are. And they're just filling up. So they decided that's up to you. I just like to give the examples of what airports are running into, because you will be in that situation as well at some point. So again, they're just boxes. If somebody comes forward and says they want to build this size hangar, I'd recommend building them in order. I would probably on that, I guess you can decide on the south side what order you want to build them in, east to west or west to east. And then, but on the north side of that taxi lane, I would probably set them west to east. Probably the order that people, but then you've kind of established that line on the west line and leaving the FBO where it is, and then building to the east to fill up the space.
If you started on the east at the very end of the taxiway and worked this way,
That'd work.
then you may be able to decide at that point, do we need to go bigger, you know, or not bigger, but, you know, could we go smaller on the FBO to get one more hangar in there, or, you know, or whatever.
And that would work as well. If you
I guess.
established the eastern line and just on both of them, started building to the west, and then you could fudge that western edge a little bit if you needed to, or some of the spaces. So, yeah, I think that'd be entirely reasonable as well.
So let's not stop the conversation on that. I have a few notes here. We'll have a separate discussion regarding that. So if you want to, I just want to keep you rolling here and not get bogged down.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And that's really all it was. If you guys have specific discussion points on changes that you'd like to see, questions, there was no real reasoning behind the 50 by 50s in general. Pretty reasonable square size, fit within kind of the fence line and leaving that parking area behind. That was kind of the reasoning for it. Otherwise, we could have picked 45 by 45 if we really wanted to. So,
Jess, if you could, you've done more research and have a report for us here. Do you want to discuss that now? Do you have an opinion on that?
I mean, to me, it doesn't, I think the sizes, I mean, I think what Lance has established here seems to be in general of like a good size, like a common size, it's going to fit. It's kind of like you got to take it on a case-by-case situation, you know? And so again, you just have to methodically, and I guess that's where, you know, we need to decide, okay, the next person comes to the board and says, I want to put this size hangar. Okay, you're going to get this spot. Like, they don't get to pick where they want their hangar. This is the spot that you get for that size, and then you build off of that, you know, based on what size gets put in there. And, you know, you kind of have to roll with it and not make it so hard, or we need to decide like, hey, your hangar has to be 50 by 50.
And I think what would make the decision easy is, okay, so we've got 120 by 100 FBO here, right? I'm looking at the west side of the new taxiway now. We've got four 50 by 50s.
Yep.
So really what'll make this easy is if we were to reduce it, what would it have to be if we were going to fit 5 in there? Or if we were to increase it, what would it have to be to only fit 3 in there? And then the same goes for the east side. We have 6 noted there. I mean, if we bumped it to 7 or down to 5, how would that affect size? That would make it very easy to accept this or change it. You know what I mean?
Down-
And you've probably done that.
And we have. I hesitate to. Everybody wants to know, well, how many hangars can you fit in there? And then we do all this work to well, everybody's going to build a 50, and then the first person walks in, I want to build a 40, a 60-foot wide hangar, and then you're like, well, and then it just dominoes back through. So I think if you build in order and maximize space, if there's a little leftover space at the very end, that's the way it is. But we don't want to have like 30 feet here and then 30 feet there, and then all of a sudden, and Hamilton has this. They've got down their taxi lanes, we've got like 30, 40 feet of wasted space, and we can't fit hangars in the middle of them.
Yeah.
And there's 6 of them scattered around the airport. Of course, they have 100 hangars, but there's 6 of them scattered around. We could probably fit 4 more hangars, if they would have built them all in order. So they've changed that, and they build them all in order now. But I think as long as you build them in order, I guess if there's a little bit of wasted space, it'll get filled with office space or something in the future. Like this FBO
Alternatively-
entirely could add on office space at some point in time to it.
Alternatively, we could say these are the sizes that are going to be built, period.
Yep.
And so if you want a big one, it's got to be there. If you want a small one, it's got to be on the north side.
How
Yep.
about if somebody comes along and wants to rent 2 of them and put a common building in there?
And I just realized I was calling it the west because I have my paper.
Yeah.
But you guys are probably
We figured it out. It's all right.
Paper West.
paper west.
Yeah, I guess,
I
that-
also think that is also why, to go back and revisit the Cody situation, is we do have a spot for a slightly smaller hangar that is available. And so it's more reason to keep that as a hangar, because, if you're going to be adamant that these new people who come in, like, hey, your hangar has to be 50 by 50.
Mm-hmm.
And it does maximize space that way. It can make it a little bit more difficult because somebody might come in and say, well, I really only need a 40 by 40, 45 by 45, and construction's so expensive already. I don't want to build a 60 by 60, and they go away. There's pros and cons to that.
Yep.
Eventually, as we discussed, you will hit full build out. It is best to maximize your space, but you also want to, meet the needs of the immediate users. That's a tough balancing act. That's not something different boards might decide differently. So that's really up to you all to try and determine what you think is in the best interest of your airport, in the short and long term.
You have 15 foot between these as they're drawn.
I think they're 20 feet.
20 foot.
Yep. 20 foot. And they can get reduced. It does require firewalls commonly.
And then we're back to an additional expense. You've got 15 foot typical on here. That's supposed to be 20. That would be on the.
Oh, you're right. It does say
southwest corner.
15. You're right. It's 15 between. Excepting the space behind the FBO is slightly larger because we aligned the eastern side of that 50 by 50 with basically the end of the taxiway where you would taxi into that hangar on center.
Yeah.
To try and align that.
So we've already got them drawn. Now talking about the south side of the taxiway here, we've got them drawn deeper than they are wide to maximize the depth possibility. That's less convenient, really, for getting planes in and out. But the point I'm making is, if we were to narrow those up, let's say we were going to try to fit 7 in there instead of 6, and let's say we had to go down to 45 foot wide or something. Now we have a 45 foot wide by potentially 70 to 80 foot deep hangar. That's not a very usable hangar. So my point in all that is I don't know that we should go any narrower to try to fit 7. So I think 6 is the right number on the south side.
Lance, what is the designation of that piece of land that has nothing on it that would be southwest of the future FBO, kind of alongside the ag,
Yeah,
but just south of the ag? Could that be a large hangar again?
you really can't. You can't really see. It's hard to see there's some contour lines that say right through that last westmost hangar. If you look just to the right of it, there's a label that says BRL
Yep.
40.
Yeah.
That means building restriction line 40 feet
Oh.
tall.
Oh, okay.
That's your
Oh.
transitional surface.
Okay.
Your 7-to-1 off the side of the runway. So then the next one to the west of that says
30.
BRL 30.
Mhm.
That difference is your 7-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
So that between those two contour lines, there's got to be 70 feet in between them because it's 7-to-1 and there's 10 foot. So there's got to be 70 feet in between those two contour lines. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why we cut them off, is because it starts getting height restricted.
Yeah.
That's not what is those 7-to-1s are advisory in nature. Would it actually have impacts? Potentially not. So in the future, we may consider whether or not, well, would the FAA allow us to build one more hangar there? They may. Wouldn't recommend showing one at this time, but in the future, if more land's not acquired, it may be able to be filled with one more hangar that penetrates the 7-to-1. They may say, oh, we'll put red obstruction lights on top of it.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the previous conversation about, and as it relates to the Cody Folkvord request, they've got to park that semi somewhere to be able to operate ag out of there, and that's you had talked about that grassy area potentially being utilized for that. So it's not as if it's a waste.
Yep.
No, not at all. No.
Yep, and that's an area that you guys could potentially even lease out for, say, well, that doesn't have a different use, as shown on the ALP. We will lease that space for,
Yep.
grass tie downs or whatever, and maybe
Sure.
you would.
Mm-hmm.
Or just a parking pad like he wants to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an idea, and I guess I'm just throwing this out here, but I think we've kind of, the south side of that taxiway seems to be maximized the most hangars that it can do, and maximizing the space size-wise. So why not then, because we've had people on the list, and there are people waiting, you could take the ones on the north side, obviously having a 50 by 50 as your goal size to try and get those people to build, but those have some flexibility, also knowing that this FBO, it's not as if it has to be 120 by 100, so if it ended up shrinking by 10 feet because somebody wanted to squeeze a 45 by 50 in, or, and using what I'm trying to say, I guess, is the hangars on the north side of the taxiway, making those your ones that you can kind of change a little bit, but be more set on the hangar sizes on the south side and keeping those how they lay out.
And you'll note that there's a bunch of utilities in, I guess it'd be the northeast corner of that future FBO. Those are, if you're building a $1 million hangar, it's not impossible to move those utilities. But that size hangar would require moving. There's some transformers in there. You can see all those lines run into the underground power.
Mm-hmm.
It might be $50,000, but that's if you're building a $1 million hangar in a future business, that might be reasonable, but they may come forward and say, well, we don't want to move all that. We want an 80 by 80 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I agree, Jess. I think your suggestion is a good one because as it is, just going down to 45 by 45, you're only going to gain, 5 foot per hangar, and that's not enough to make another hangar space. And so, I think, starting at the east end, moving west allows you to have that flexibility by the time you get to the FBO. So I think that's a great recommendation.
The other thing that has just popped into my head, Lance, and I didn't bring it up to you, but, and I only am thinking of this because we've had issues with the access point on the old part of the airport of driving in. Do we have any plans for accessing these hangars, especially the ones that are on the south side of the taxiway? Or is it gonna require somebody to drive in like they normally do now and then drive through all of that ramp area to get to their taxiway or their hangar, let's say that's way at the southeast corner of the new park?
Sure. There's enough space that a little access road could get built along the south edge of that fence. It's not extensive grading along there. There's just, I mean, it's traversable with a vehicle. We don't have 2-to-1s back there where you couldn't traverse it. So there's enough space there that you could put a gravel road in behind them.
Hey Lance, didn't we also talk about, where the parking lot is currently? Between, I think it's labeled as number 1, the hangar directly across from the future FBO.
Daryl, can you speak up a little bit? Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry. Oh, probably should have one of those right there.
Oh, there's different mics. I'm talking super loud trying to...
There's an extra one there.
Yeah, I should give Lance that one.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, we got the little pads that go with the phone, so can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so the existing parking lot, I know we talked about one time putting an access point that would go past, it's labeled hangar number 1, between that area and the future FBO. Accessing the ramp area from there. Is that still a possibility?
Okay.
And it's a possibility. There's a little bit of a ramp area right next to that hangar number 1 right now. So I don't know what their lease area is on that hangar number 1. If we stuck with that same size FBO, it's not. It's fairly. I mean, there's 20 feet in between those number 1 and the future FBO. So there's plenty of room for a road in between there, but. I'd have to look at what those leases are to see how far that number 1 lease extends out. So there's room in the middle of there for an access road. Otherwise, we'd have to reduce the size of that FBO if we were gonna leave space for a roadway in there.
All right.
Either reduce the size of the FBO or do an easement on his lease or something.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there's a very appropriate container right now.
And these are supposed to be living documents. I mean, they will change. We amend them and send them back into the FAA quite frequently. We just mark them up. A lot of times it's because hangars have gotten built or whatever, and we want to show them as having been built. And so periodically we'll jump into them, just edit it slightly, with during small projects. Amend it, and then we don't have to redo the whole ALP. These tend to be a lot easier to update. They just want to make sure that you're building with consideration for what your future airport is going to be and ultimate airport is going to be.
It's just a question on the new taxiway. Could you put a gated, automatic gate right there for people to come in?
At the end? Yeah.
Yeah, at some point when we finally do, wildlife fencing and whatnot, I mean, each of these accesses will need to be a gate.
Yep.
With a code or something.
Yep. Typically, most people put Unicoms.
Sure.
I access all sorts of airports that we're not even affiliated with, just because I'll stop through and look at them, and you can
It's either that or
9
Squawk
times out of
VFR
10, it's 1228 or 1229.
or 1200, yeah.
Yeah, or 1200.
Okay, so we've got two items that, why don't we wait till the end to vote on all these items. So I've got so far the non-movement area, removing the tie downs. Now we have hangar size / location. Do you have more you want to go through? That's it?
Not for this. And then the only other thing I have for an action item, and it's not specific to this, is to set some minimum standards associated with labeling this FBO as a full service FBO and having some sort of minimum standards associated with a full service FBO.
Mm-hmm. Well, for simplicity, let's break this down and make a motion on each. So what we need now is a motion for the future tie-down area to be designated as a non-movement area, meaning we remove the tie-downs and then we label it as such to be a multi-use area.
Yeah, I'll move to designate the future ramp space as a non-movement area and remove the tie-downs.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the future ramp area to be a non-movement area with no tie-downs. Is there any more discussion? I'll just add that I think the ramp space congestion issue is not a tie-down issue. It's a people using it ag issue, being used as an agricultural staging area or air ambulance or whatever. So I love the idea. I guess is all I'm going to add. So. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so how do you want to do this on the hangar size location? Unless there's somebody that wants to reduce or increase the number of hangars different than what's shown, then I guess we would entertain a motion to approve the hangars as drawn, hangar size and location as drawn, with the caveat that we will use discretion going forward. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
someone want to make that motion?
I'll move as you suggested.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
It's all recorded.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'll get it on the record.
And I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I think that, just to reiterate that the discretion obviously comes with starting with the hangars on the north side of the taxiway and allowing those to be adjusted because we have room to adjust them the FBO.
Okay, so in other words, it's the issue of building in order, is what you're saying. Is that correct, Jess?
Yeah, or yeah, I guess, and maybe that's a separate motion, or with the understanding that, yes, the order would be that we start building from the east side first to the west, and that if somebody comes in and wants to do a 45 by 50, their hangar would be on the north side of the taxiway rather than, down on the southwest side.
Yeah, leave them big hangar spaces for larger hangars. Agree.
Okay. I don't want a 3-paragraph motion, so we're going to leave that as a separate issue. We'll leave that as the discretion part of the motion. Does that sound fair to you?
I think that's ideal.
Yes, that's it.
And perhaps we could have a discussion at another time on an exact policy on build order and direction. Okay, any other discussion on the current motion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, sorry, Jess. Motion carries.
Okay, last thing on that, not part of the motion, we'll stake those for you during construction. We'll have surveyors out here, so we always have survey equipment when we're on site during inspection, so pretty common nowadays because the contractor builds with our surface models. They plug them into their graders, their dozers, their pavers. Literally, we send them like a file and they can just plug that into all their equipment. So we'll have the same equipment out here. We're using the same models, and so then we can set some stakes in the ground and stuff for you and flag them and label them. Just the bounds, at least. We're not going to flag each individual hangar unless that's something you really want, but at least the bounds so you can kind of visualize it, and hangar builders you can visualize it, leasees.
Will they level that area for us so it's buildable?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It'll be leveled with ditch line, hangar finish floor-ish,
Okay. Perfect.
leveled out. Okay. I'm gonna skip. I'm going back to my first page. I'm gonna skip the airport zoning because it's kind of a separate standalone item with the water tank, and then talk about the AWAS and your funding. So it gets a little bit acute funding, but the bottom table that's all colored with 4 different colors of funding and everything. That's how I track all your transfers. Funding expires after 4 years. With your non-primary entitlement, you've lent it out to all sorts of different airports in order to accumulate a balance of $1.4 million in change. Because typically you can only have $600,000 in there because it starts to expire after 4 years if it's not used. So you've been lending it to all sorts of airports. All those little red flags tell me who you lent it to, when it's coming back. And then it's part of a big spreadsheet that I can track between whoever you lend it to. The bipartisan infrastructure law, that's BIL accumulation. That was a 5-year bill. It's fluctuating slightly. So you see you guys generated at 159, 145, 144. That's because they're grant allocating the money based on your airport ranking as a general aviation airport, a local general aviation airport instead of basic. And so I show 144,000. It's kind of hard. Sorry, that blue color's a little bit too dark. But that can't be commingled with regular FAA funds. It's got to get granted separately. That's a pain in the butt because we're running a lot of two grant projects. But what it did do on your guys' behalf, they didn't use that money on your major project. They came up with enough regular FAA money. It didn't require us to use it, which we thought we were going to. Additionally, I don't know how, they messed up and granted the land acquisition project with regular FAA money. That $237,000 in 2023, that was your land acquisition project. That was supposed to be a BIL project. I was like, how did that get messed up? We can't tell the difference between the grants when they come in. The application was very clear that it was supposed to be a BIL run project. I guess it was in cycle enough that they just granted it. So you ended up with extra funds in your BIL account, which turned out quite well because they supplemented the major project with state apportionment. So now you're going to, going into 2025, you're going to have a $742,000 balance. That includes $150,000 in non-primary entitlement, but that $159,000 is going to expire. I don't need action from the if it's not used this next year, and you can't loan BIL money to other airports. So
That's the
truly,
2022
that's the
BIL number you're
2022
talking?
BIL
Yep.
is going to expire at the end of next federal fiscal year. So we basically have to have that money spent by this time or committed.
That could be used for land acquisition.
Land acquisition, so apron expansion. So if the apron expansion moves forward, so I don't need action from the board this meeting because primarily the FAA has said that they're going to meet with us again regarding the apron expansion. I sent that agenda item out before the FAA committed to meeting with us again. I was like, well, I need the board to start discussing what they're gonna do because we don't want that money to expire. We better tackle another wish list item. So I don't need action today from the board. I would like the board to start considering and thinking about just internally amongst yourselves, what your next priority might be if the apron expansion doesn't move forward. Even if the apron expansion does move forward, you'll still have a $500,000 balance. So you still could run a project next year if you so chose. You'll still have $500,000 in FAA funds, which actually amounts to $550,000 project because you have to match that with a 10% local share.
Does that 159 being available for the apron expansion, does that do anything for us in the discussion with the FAA?
I've tried that discussion.
Okay.
So yes, I think so, because I think
Logically it would.
yeah, we can afford it now. We show the need now. How can you really say no?
And
I
what's the
mean,
cost of the additive alternate,
And I should have had it
if you have a round number?
200. I
Really?
want to say it was 217, but I for some reason can't come up with that number in my.
That's interesting.
That, the pavement on that egg area, is that what we're talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the difference between if I can do math in my head. 4,027,000 to 3,797,000. So that's 230,000 bucks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's real close. And that will require a 10% local share. So $230,000, you have to match 23,000 of it. So it's basically $200,000 of FAA money.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, the prices that you've estimated for doing, say, that ag area, that's when we do the main project and the contractors are in there. That's not bringing another contractor in 2 years down the road.
Yeah,
Right.
we will see that at least triple
Yeah.
if we run that as a standalone project.
Mhm.
You guys are close enough to Helena and high capacity asphalt plants that they probably wouldn't have to mobilize a plant, but moving hot plants, pavers, crushers to crush, $750,000.
Mhm.
And with our BIL accumulation that's going to expire, the cost of the FAA is 71 grand right now for that apron expansion.
Yeah, and you'd use your 2023 BIL money, that other 71 grand.
So we got it covered.
You have it covered.
Oh,
Yeah, we got it
yeah.
covered.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you've got the federal funds available. Their response to my request on that was, well, yeah, but then we have to maintain it in the future. And I'm like, that's 30 years in the future. I mean,
Yeah, I think we should push for that. I mean, it's just. I mean,
well, and we have been.
Yeah.
He has been, yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, yeah, but I mean, I think as a board, we totally support that, you know,
Sure.
as extremely good use of the funds.
Yeah. So regardless of that, if the apron expansion doesn't move forward, we will need to run. Well, I shouldn't say we will need to. You will lose money if you don't run available federal grant money if you don't run a project next year. Even if we do get the apron expansion, you still do have available federal money to tackle a project such as a weather station or fencing or possibly land acquisition. So board can continue to consider what your next priority might be regardless of what that apron expansion is.
Yeah, I think, thinking ahead, I mean, I think we should pursue once again the land acquisition to be able to get that taxiway put in. And now is better than later. It's gonna just get more expensive to buy that land. I mean, we had that, the
We
deal
pushed
we
as hard
went
as we
for,
could.
I mean,
Yeah, we kind of ran up against a little bit of a wall there.
We could always reach back out to them and see realistically. We got the appraisal and a review appraisal, so it didn't seem like that was close, but we didn't really get a number named. But I mean, of the 742,000, say minus 200,000 you'd have available if the apron expansion went forward, 542,000, you could borrow from other airports
Oh, yeah.
and reach $1 million. Your needs are met, right? All your pavements are going to be reconstructed. Your lighting's going to be brand new. You got hangar spots available. You'll have expanded. If that is really the next priority, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I mean, it's tough to buy land,
Yeah.
and it does get more expensive. So it's been a push where I've got like 5 airports trying to buy land right now. None of them are that easy. So
Well,
you
how
probably
do you-
could reach $1 million in available federal funding if you borrowed from other airports and not, it wouldn't be putting you in a bind with other priority needs of maintaining your current infrastructure. Your infrastructure will have been maintained.
Yeah, so we pushed as hard as we could on that, and the way we left it is we're going to let it cool and let the negotiations, when people are ready to talk again, come up when that time is appropriate. So we don't really know when that is, but
Yep.
cross
Okay.
that bridge when we get there.
So I'll backtrack now back to the airport zoning. I reviewed your airport affected area resolution, and there was it references like a draft permit application, but there wasn't one included. So I searched. I even have Bill Berkland's archive sitting. He had files, and I searched through those, hard files, and he moved when we changed offices, which I gave him a hard time about, but he was the one that drafted it. Obviously, it all comes from Montana Code Annotated. That's how these zoning regulations got put together and gives the airports the authority to enact them. There's kind of a standard there. It references a permit. So I just read through your airport zoning regulations and set this permit application up based on that. Step 1, determine if it violates land use, and it basically provides that somebody can submit those bullet points, description and proposal, location, temporary, permanent, site elevation, accurate height, or provide a FAA 7460. This is like 2/3 the way down the first page of that draft application. That draft 7460, that's an airspace case study, and the FAA issues a determination on them. All those bullet points get entered into that. Anybody can enter them. Anytime we do them, I use my own login so that everything comes back to me. So I enter, 100 of them a year, probably, through that login. So, but any private person can do that as well. So that's the kind of 2 ORs, and then there's check boxes on the Broadwater County Planner, and this it says Townsend Director of Public Works. That is actually still applicable, even though they're not an owner of the airport. They still have zoning to try and protect the airport from building things in the city limits that would impact the airport. So that's, even though it's still county airport, that's still applicable. So if you're questioning why that's in there, my opinion, that's still applicable. They should still be reviewing these items. So approval or denial, and then they would go to step 2, appeals. And then there's a $500 fee with appeals, and I didn't make those numbers up. Those are in the zoning regulations. And what they must provide, and then the Airport Board of Adjustment has determined, and the zoning regulations define the Airport Board of Adjustment and who would make that up, etc. And then step 3 is the judicial review. Again, that's all within zoning regulations. So, I guess I'd be looking for comments, and the reason why and then I have, I guess, page 3 of 3 there is a permit application that the applicant can fill out which follows that step 1 permit application. That would be my recommendation. And then my second item is I have filled that out for the water tank.
Right, I saw that.
And you guys have seen this. You guys have seen the 7460. They responded. It's really about the height of the trees that are out there in the fairgrounds area. It's further off the center line. The FAA responded, no hazard to navigation. They review the same airspace surfaces that you have in your airport layout plan. That's what they review against. More conservatively than what we can review them, because they use kind of rudimentary means of developing those surfaces where we have exact modeling. They said, based on this evaluation, marking and lighting are not necessary for aviation safety. It's going to be lighted. I mean, it's just common. So I put that in the permit application. So I guess I'll leave it up to the board on whether or not how you want to take action on these items, if you want to continue to review them, or if you want to take action on them, or if you have questions of me.
So what are you looking for from us on the permit application?
Probably just so the permit application like blank.
Yeah, just to
I
approve
guess a
it as written.
recommendation to adopt.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, I think
Because there
it would
wasn't
come in
one, is
a form
what
of
you're
a
saying.
recommendation because the board didn't adopt that. I think it'd come in a form of a recommendation back to the county and the city to use this permit application.
That's what you expected to find but couldn't?
That's what I expected to find, but couldn't.
So
Yes.
you wrote it. Okay.
So I wrote it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, again, for simplicity, we'll discuss each one separately. The permit application, I don't know that we have a lot to add on that. At least I don't.
I think it's very complete. I don't see anything.
Jess, did you happen to get those via email or something? The blank permit application?
She did, I sent them to everybody, and then you have them in your packets too, but then
Right.
I didn't get the one filled out.
Yeah. She has the blank one
Right.
in her packet. And I sent it, I think, both of the last 2 months.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
My question is, Jess, do you have anything to add regarding the blank permit application?
No.
Bob, what are your thoughts? I don't have anything to add on it. So.
I mean, the FAA's determined that there was not a problem with it, so.
Yeah, I think the ball's in your court. Okay, so in that case, we'd entertain a motion to approve the proposed permit application.
I would so move.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the permit application as written by Lance. Any further discussion?
Maybe comment on recommend to the city and county approval of the permit application.
Well, we could add that to the, I guess, to the motion that this is our recommendation that they approve.
Right.
Okay.
Who's approving it, city and county?
Well, would you restate the motion, please, Bob? So we're looking for a motion to recommend that the permit application be approved.
Okay. I recommend that the permanent application be approved as, what is right here in front of us.
Do we need a second on a minute?
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and as far as the water tank, what you're looking for is that we approve of the location or disapprove, or I guess our recommendation to the county to approve it, correct?
Yeah, probably, or I don't even know. I mean, the city, well, in this case, the county's gonna approve or deny, because they'll
Right.
have a permit application, but I guess I'd at least want we're the ones doing the airport engineering and the tank, so I really want board input, whether or not you guys have any objections to it or not, regardless of whether or not,
Right.
per the permit application, it says that it's gonna get approved. I would still like the board to weigh in on and
This,
provide a
this aerial
recommendation.
photo that's right here, Lance, and you've got the little X there.
Yep,
The- I guess I'm not oriented properly here. I was thinking this is the field that's straight east of the fairgrounds. This one that's on a pivot,
it is.
okay?
Yeah, and we had this discussion before. The decision is not ours. You're simply wanting our input if we have objections.
Yeah,
When the determination was
Yeah.
sent, Angie Wintrow, City of Townsend Council Member.
Thank you.
When the determination was sent to the city and the airport board dated February 8th, the discussion was had on the February 21st airport board meeting, in which you guys did make a determination and voted that you were in approval with the location of the tank.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure why we still need to
Okay.
have that conversation.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
yeah, thank you. I actually do recall that conversation. That was prior to the permit, but
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay,
So
so I
we
think
don't
I
need
think
to-
we're on record as
Yep.
having no opposition.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I need anything else. We will submit the permit application to Broadwater County with the fee and with the board's prior recommendation for, I guess, I don't know if it was approval or no objection, but I'll look back at that. Any other questions of me? Just in general? I don't
Oh,
have
we
any other-
probably will.
Yeah, well, I'm
We
gonna stick
usually do.
around, but before I sit back down right now.
Right.
Lance, do you mind emailing the copy of that third layout?
Yeah, no problem, I'll do that.
Okay,
Apologies.
thank you.
Yep. You even told me you were gonna be gone. I spaced it.
It's okay, no worries.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Your February 21st minutes read the airport's discussion included accepting the tank's location pending formal permit application with the understanding it is lit and complies with FAA standards unless things change as the project proceeds.
Yep.
Stated in the minutes.
Lance, do you want that sent to you?
Sure, what date is that?
February 21st.
I have a copy. I'll just give it to you.
Okay, thank you, Angie.
Done. I have so much blue ink on my agenda, I don't know where we're at.
Thank you.
I think we're down to airport manager.
Yes. Okay, Dwight, the floor is yours.
Okay, Dwight Thompson, Airport Manager. So it seems like if we have a tube and something going through it, we have a problem with it. So first thing, problem was the gopher situation. I think we have it under some good control with some traps and gas. The park area is beautiful. There hasn't been any local gophers or anything going in there. The newest problem has been the water, and basically we started. Well, Lance or Seth had ran into it with the upgrading of the irrigation system that we found that there was some leakage. I sat down with Daryl and we got brought up the old well history on it, and I think I called you, Bob, too, about if you could recall what was done, and met with the A10 drilling out of East Helena that had initially done the well, and their record, they have sold that, and the new people have it. They don't really have any current recordings of it, but they assume that things were probably put in it on the lighter side of well and plumbing, being it was really only the pilot lounge, and then Mike Ferguson's hangar was on it, and then Wade Litton's hangers on that also. One of the hydrants is leaking, and you'd think that most of the time the water bubbles up, but with that porous ground out there, I think the water is just going down to the aquifer to recycle again. But the problem has been trying to locate where the wires go to the fuel pump. The BSE is more than willing to come in and dig that up once we get those wires located. We've not been able to do that, and Seth and I were discussing this morning that Monday that we would hand dig that thing down, but he just texted me that he found somebody that's going to be out there to locate for us. So BSC can pull up that hydrant and see where that issue may be at. The pressure tank is flat, so I picked up a pressure tank. Got a military discount for it, so it saved us a few dollars on that thing. So that's just waiting to be installed, but that's not the problem. The big problem is there's a leak somewhere in that line. And whether or not the pump is big enough is the next thing. You know, it was probably a light pump that was put in there. The well is really a big well, 50-gallon a minute well out of the 3 wells out there. So it's a really nice well. So that work is in the works.
There is some person you could ask a few of them questions to. You know where Ernie Carlson lives?
Yeah.
Ask Ernie.
Okay.
Because when I moved here, he was chairman of the board, and I don't know how long he'd been here, but he was aware of a lot of the stuff that Ferguson was aware of.
Oh, yeah.
He might be able to verify locations of wires going to that fuel system.
Okay. Yeah.
He might be able to tell you about water lines that are out there.
Yeah. I tried the 811, but they wouldn't. Since it's a private, all they'll do is map out for a power company to. But as far as what we have there, they wouldn't do it for us. So. Yeah. So that's in the works. Seth was going to shut down. He's taking his daughter to college, and so we're going to shut down the irrigation system just to conserve the work on that pump. It's clicking on and off quite often.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that the next is the other piping is the fuel system, and Aubrey, I didn't see a bill come in for the last repair. I guess they haven't sent us one yet, so I don't know where we're at with the bill. We are up and running. We got a new card reader in there. If you use the fuel system, you have to load your card from the opposite way that you're traditionally. That's just the way this card reader is. It's a new one, and the monitor, the display unit, is also new. Although I really can't see a lot of difference outside before they put it in. It's nice and clear, but I think that weather shield or above it or something is kind of obscuring the view of things. We've had a couple little hiccups, and I've been just selling some fuel by cash or check, and we just deposited another $550 today, things, and I've just kept the registry so we can just keep track of everything, but do what we can to help out when people need some fuel.
But it is working now.
It has, yeah, for the last...
It has
two,
not?
It has.
Okay.
For the last 2 weeks, we've been doing really well. Yeah.
So it's just that incident that day, and now it's been up and running continuously.
It has,
Great.
yeah. But one of those things is we really don't know what's causing the problem. The people from Wesco, whatever, he thinks that for some reason when you put in the wrong type of card, like American Express, it makes it hiccup. And so last time when I just unplugged everything there to that card reader and plugged it back in. I have no idea if that has anything to do with it, but it seems to work. So.
Well, I know that was a significant pain for you to go out there and help all those people out for a week it was down or something.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
I don't mind that, but it's just we had a NOTAM issued, but not everybody looks at the NOTAMs, and you know, Chris, well, the email I sent out that, you know, Chris was able to help out. Well, I think it was one
did,
you sent me
yeah.
on, Rob, and got that guy going again. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, it's what we do to try to help out. But, yeah. So I think that's about it right at the moment.
So, question on, you say you put the credit card in a different way than normal.
Yeah.
Is there signs there that? tell-
Yeah, I did. I put up, we have a big permanent marker there to load it. I put a little sign above it there. It just won't work. I don't think that that's triggering. I think it's actually the card. You know, it seems like when we have problems because a different type of card was used.
Could be.
The repairman, he's not sure why that would do that, but it does seem to have kind of a history that's what makes it hiccup.
So what's the solution? He's already replaced that reader. What is his solution so that we have a system that works?
A new system.
All new system. Okay.
Can we use that money if the ramp situation doesn't go through?
I'm sure we,
Yeah, so Lance Bowser, you can't. We put it on the capital improvement plan. I've actually discussed it with the FAA. They kind of were willing to hear me out, but since that time I've done more research into the AIP handbook, and it's very specifically written that the FAA will fund the fuel systems the first time, and then they expect that fuel system to be financially self-sustaining. So they won't do replacements. The only thing that they'll do is like tank expansions. So if you decided you needed twice the capacity, they'll do that. But that's basically it. They won't do rehabs or even full replacements. They just won't do it. We were digging into it for some other airports, so I finally read the massive AIP handbook, which is searchable, but and found what I was looking for. So we're gonna have to take that. I actually noted on the notes that we're gonna have to take the fuel system back off of your CIP next cycle.
Okay.
Well, I have a question, just kind of brainstorming here, Lance. Would Jet A be considered a new system?
Yes, you could do Jet A.
So I think we got to have to just. Daryl sent out some stuff today. Would, if we added Jet A and got the new system, it also includes a new card reader. I haven't looked at that thing other than the pictures you just showed me, Daryl. But would that be something that would work?
Yeah, potentially.
okay.
Or to feed off of that, what if we considered, I know that it's been an issue in the past where we can't take a full load if we still have gas in the tank, if I'm correct.
That's
What
pretty
if
close
we
to correct.
up the tank, what's that?
That's pretty close to correct, Jess.
And so what if we went and installed a bigger tank? So we could take a full load, would that be considered a new system? And then we could get a new card reader system with the bigger tank?
I think you'd probably be stretching it to get a new card system with a bigger tank. You could get a bigger tank if it was a capacity thing. That might be a stretch to justify with how much fuel sales you have.
Yeah.
Right.
In itself, but they wouldn't replace the credit card system. They'd just be giving you more capacity.
Well, and I think that's using a 16-pound maul when a tacking hammer is probably more called for. So.
Well,
Okay.
there is going to be a Jet A need, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we have to have a pretty decent flow of that. I don't know how long it has to go before it gets moldy or whatever, but I know it's not infinite.
Any idea how much he burns?
A lot.
I know, yeah, that's what I mean. The flowage is going to be large.
Excuse me.
So I think it's totally justifiable based upon the new ag operation coming to the airport. So,
And
I
the
like-
military might also use, if you guys had Jet A, might use.
and then we're really going to need a bigger ramp.
Well, that being the Air Force, because they're coming over from Great Falls, and the Guard, they get their own fuel, from their fueler. So I don't know how much they'd use this, but the Air Force might use Jet A more. Looking at that system, I was just sitting here looking at that system that Daryl passed out. That has a card reader in there that looks like it goes both avgas and jet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that.
I don't know all the details on it, so
I was just kind of thinking.
we'll talk about it under new
Yeah.
business.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Okay. Well, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
That's something to put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, and maybe we'll just have a quick discussion in a minute.
Mhm.
Okay, discuss and decide on fuel pricing. The latest wholesale price is $4.56, so we're still in really good territory, and we're at that time of year where fuel's
Mhm.
prices generally start to decline, and they are slightly so far.
Mhm.
We have 3,100 gallons in the tank right now, so we have another 2,000 to go before we can buy a 10,000 gallon load. I didn't do the math this time on how much we've used per day, but in other words, I think we're looking very good for a fall purchase
Mhm.
of a 10,000 gallon load, so I don't have any recommendation to change there. Okay, so let's discuss, could you expound on this Chester fuel system opportunity?
Yeah, Aubrey has some pictures.
Do you have just give us a rundown of the background of this?
Yeah, so these are actually some tanks that Cody had found, and he said, we'll pass it on to the board to see if they're interested. So they are located in Chester. They're double walled, so there's no containment needed. And I guess I didn't look at the picture close enough. I know there's the dispenser there, but is there a card reader? I'm not caught.
it looked like it was overhead or a card reader.
It could be.
Well, maybe
It might already be there.
I can't tell.
But regardless, they are available, and I think they're 10,000 gallon tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They're fairly new. What Cody told me is they had about $65,000 into each of them, but we could probably make an offer.
Chester doesn't want to sell fuel? I mean, it's
I don't-
beside the point, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
It might be a private operator there too.
Oh,
It's private.
it is?
I
Okay.
think I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. So.
I work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder how old the card reader system is.
What are they looking at this for jet fuel?
There's one of each.
Is it-
This is the way I understand it.
Well, see, that tank we have, there's a 12,000 gallon tank.
Right,
And I need to go to a 10.
right. Again, I think-
Can you hook them together? Can you keep the tank we have also?
I think it's one of those situations where we're using a bazooka on a gopher here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think the whole idea was that if you were interested, there'd be more, we could do more research
yes. No, and
to determine if you want to pursue it or not.
yeah, we certainly appreciate and thank you to Cody for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
In regards to the card reader, I mean, at some point, if this guy that you're working with, if you think he's reputable, let's get a quote on what it would cost to replace the dang system, because the way we're operating now, what we're doing is we're becoming known as an airport where you're not sure if you can get fuel or not.
That's exactly right.
And
I
again,
get calls every week, is the fuel system
right,
working?
yeah, and that's not where we want to be. And again, we're not here to make money on fuel. We're here to serve the public, the flying public, with fuel. I mean, that's the point.
Oh, but we do need to make the money that we can replace our
We do
equipment.
need enough money to replace our equipment, absolutely. And part of that is selling more fuel. So, I don't know if that's something he can do for us. Can we get a,
Well, he's just a repairman. He works for the guy that we were talking with on the very beginning. It was just to go to the whole credit card.
Oh, that guy we were talking with, the Butte?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he'd give us a quote. But I'd like to see a quote that we don't have to go to them to have all the work done. I mean, this system we have out here, for years we've been strapped to, hung out dry because you gotta talk to the people in Florida to get anything out of them, get an answer about the maintenance or anything. And they just charge the heck out of us.
Well, let's do this. I mean, we need to have a discussion on that. Would you guys maybe discuss it, or you and I can talk about it, and we gotta find a solution, because every month we come here and we complain about the dang system, so let's have a discussion on, so we don't keep holding everybody up here on, who we can get a quote from.
I mean, you guys have the money. You have the money to spend on the fuel system, so.
Yeah.
It's gonna definitely catch up with us here at some point.
Yes, absolutely. It's catching up with us now.
Well, I think also consideration for adding Jet A,
Yeah.
because I would assume that Cody doesn't want to have a new relationship up here in terms of providing fuel.
Well, right, and I guess maybe I'll just throw this out here. If the board does not want to have Jet A, then
He's gonna
if
have,
Cody
he's gonna have to furnish his
did
own.
something, would you object to it? So think about that as well.
As in put in, something, yep.
Yeah, something that he can service himself with.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, as far as new business, let's clean up one item here. As far as deciding on, build order on these hangars, I don't think we're prepared to have that conversation and it's certainly not time critical. So let's put that on next month's agenda to discuss and decide on hangar build.
We also have the
order.
one right here on the new leases for the current hangar owners. We haven't gone over that.
We did. There has been no movement from the county attorneys on that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, any new business? Mm-hmm.
I should have had it in my report. Mike Delger, I've not been able to get a hold of him. I tried again yesterday on the reciting of the outhouse out at Canyon Ferry. And I don't know if he's around or anything, but I've just left message after message, so.
That's Mike Delger.
Mhm. Yeah, so,
Haven't seen him around.
yeah.
Okay, well, if it becomes an issue and we can't get it done and we need to get it done, I guess we go on to somebody else, yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
any other new business? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.